Hi everyone, and welcome to practice 5.1. Today we're going to talk about switches. But before we do that, let's first talk about if statements. It's important to kind of understand how switches and ifs are related. Taking a look at our notes, you'll notice that when we talk about if statements, it goes through a series of conditionals and checks, where a switch will also go through a check, but it basically pinpoints a case or a test and then does whatever that case wants us to do or whatever the statement after that case wants us to do, and then breaks out of the code, so to speak. So we're first going to look at this practice and we're going to talk about the if statement. So for this practice 5.1, I want you to create a program that reads in a variable int k, then checks to see if it's equal to 50. If it's equal to 50, you'll output yay. If not, you'll output boo. So we're going to need to read in some information. So we need our import at the top. We'll need both of our libraries. So import java.io and import java.util. And so you'll definitely need those because we're reading information. Then for part one, we need to create a scanner. So let me go ahead and do that. And I'm just going to call it reader. And I need to prompt my user. So system.out.print. And I want to ask my user to put in an integer. So please enter an integer. Okay, so next I want for my if statement, I want to do my conditional. So part one, and this is going to be my if statement. Sorry, autocorrect. And this is where I'm going to have my if statement. So if, and I'm doing a comparison equivalent. So I need, oops, I forgot to read it in, my fault. So here I'm going to read in my ifs, or sorry, my integers that the user did. I apologize. So I need to create a variable int k, because that's what I asked in the directions, equals reader at next. All right, now that I've prompted my user and I've read in that integer, I'm not going to do my if comparison or conditional to check. So k is equal to 50. We want to output, so I need a system. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. System.out.println. Yay. Else. Line. Boo. Okay. So I'm going to run my program, but before I do, I just want to do a check. I have my import libraries here, Java.io and Java.util. Perfect. I have my reader. Excellent. Or sorry, my scanner called reader. Excellent. I then have my system.out println to prompt my user. I then read in my integer with next int. And then I have my if statement here. I'm comparing if k is equivalent with a double equal sign to 50. If it is, yay, else, boo. So I'm going to run. Please enter an integer. I'm going to do 5. Boo, not equal to 50. If I run it again, 50, Yay, perfect. So that's a very simple if statement. Next, I want you to try to change the program into a switch. And the switch relies on us doing several things. So for part two, I'm going to just comment out my part one. Okay. My if statements here. Make sure they're all commented out, every line. And now I'm going to look at part two. So again, I still have my reader, or my scanner called reader. I still have my integer k. I still have my prompt that asks me to enter an integer, but now I'm going to use a switch. And I'm going to go right here. This is my switch. So here, I'm going to use the word switch. It's going to be lowercase switch. And you'll notice it turns blue. Then I need to put my integer variable inside of those parentheses, which is k. And then I need a curly bracket. And I'm going to do, this is where I do cases. Cases are basically, it checks that one case and it keeps checking if I have multiple cases. But in this case, in this example, I only have one case because I'm only doing one check. So I use the word case, it's all lowercase, space. Because I'm doing a number, I just put 50. I use a colon. I hit return, and you notice that it does indent underneath the case. So once it checks to see if that case is actually equivalent to 50, if k is equal to 50, I'm going to system that out, that print line, and I'm going to do yay. I still need the semicolon after that. And then this is new as well. I'm going to use a break, and that means it breaks outside of that case, and it basically it's going to break outside of the entire switch. I do often have a default, so if it's not equal to 50, I'm going to go back, and you notice these lines will line up. So I need it to be underneath the indentation for a case. I'm going to use default, and that's kind of like our else. It's just defaulting. If it's not 50, it defaults, colon, and then a system.out print line, and this is where we use our boo. And then you don't really need a break for that because it's the last check. So it's like that else. So for this, it's really very simple. It takes in or reads in our letter k, or whatever integer is, assigns it to the value, to the variable k. The switch then says, hey, what's k? Is the case equal to 50? If it is, yay, default, boo, and we're gonna run. Please enter a number. I'm going to do 7. And then it basically says, are any of those cases, is this case equal to 50? Nope. Goes right to default and then outputs boo. So I run it again. And then let me scroll this up so you guys can see. It is going to be, let me get rid of that, 50. Yay. So switch is a lot like an if statement, but it can be a lot simpler. An if statement will check multiple conditions, could check a range of different information to see if something is true. A switch just basically does a quick check, whether, at least in this example, it's a numeric value, or I'll show you in a few minutes how to do in our next practice, how to check a character value or a letter. So it's really quick and easy. It does a quick check, checks those cases, and it goes right to where it needs to be, because once it's true, meaning if that case is true, it does what it needs to and breaks out completely of the switch. Where an if statement really works its way down. It checks to see if values are true and then does what it needs to do. So that's the difference between a switch and an if statement. And this is practice 5.1.